Can I go get another beer?
That was so funny. He's like, "Hey, Chris, we muted you because you were echoing." No, I wasn't. You were echoing.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 5 Idiots Talking Toys. It is our Sunday night podcast here on YouTube if you're watching us, and also on your favorite podcast app if you're listening. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like this video, comment, let us know what you thought about the topic that we're going to dive into tonight. You can visit us and check out all of our links on social media at 5idiotstalkingtoys.com, and you can also collect with us at rogue5toys.com. That's our sales page. Come join us there. Join the group. Check out everything that we're doing there. We do giveaways. We have stuff for sale. Have a lot of fun. Let's bring the boys in now. We've got Brandon, Chris, Charles, and John, and I am Shane. Welcome to 5 Idiots Talking Toys. What's up, boys?
What's going
Hello,
on?
everybody.
Charles is ready for tonight's show. He is ready. Pumped.
His hair is on fire about this topic.
Yes.
Very pumped.
Yep.
Look at Brandon's beautiful hair.
Brandon's on. He's on mute still.
We don't need to hear him. We just need to see his hair.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Such a rookie move to not unmute yourself.
I know. I was sitting here. Do you know what kind of profanity I was yelling at Shane?
I can only imagine.
Brandon, introduce yourself to these fine folks tonight. Say hello.
You already did. Hi. I'm finally on.
He's finally unmuted.
Happy to be here again.
Sorry.
Again. So we covered Indiana Jones this past Wednesday on our on our last podcast episode. We covered Indiana Jones. We were here Wednesday sharing our new collectibles, our wins, and our whiff of the week. Here we are. What is the topic for tonight's podcast? Who wants to reveal that? Should I go to Charles?
Yeah, he is chomping at the bit.
I don't know the proper name that we're going to actually call it for the show, but I'm going to say it's like restoration, restoring, whitening figures with peroxide and lights and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what methods we each think. We're going to be giving our own opinions, which methods we think are acceptable within vintage toy collecting within the hobby. You know, we always are advocates of saying you can do what you want with your own collectibles. They belong to you. Don't let anybody tell you what to do with them. But if you have any intention of sending them back out into the world, reselling them, trading, whatever you're going to do, that's where we're going to get into the topic. And these topics.
You okay, Brendan? Brendan, you okay?
Such a great
Chris, just hold on one second. We need to check in on Brandon.
Reconstruction.
Yeah.
Are we keeping you awake, sir?
He's like he's crying over there.
I know.
He's 3 hours behind us, so it's actually pretty early right now over there.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. here, so I can only imagine what time it is over there.
Yeah, right. Do you think when Brandon cries, the tears are just Japanese whiskey? Do you think he collects the tears in a glass?
I was going to say that tonight's episode should be called Resurrection or Rest in Peace.
Ooh.
There you go. Okay. So throw out the first topic. We have the first part of this topic. We have a couple of different ideas of where to go with this, but Charles, throw us the first one that you think is pretty controversial.
So the first one just really grinds my gears. It is whitening Stormtroopers and Wampas and Hoth Stormies with I guess like a potion of peroxide, and some people use UV lights maybe or something, or some kind of lights
Salon
that
40.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Salon 40.
Whatever that is.
It's a thing for hair that bleaches hair.
I think it's kind of, I don't mind if you're going to do it for yourself and then you're going to have them for yourself. But if you're going to whiten these figures and then sell them, I think is a real scumbag move to do, because I'm assuming after 6 to 12 months, it probably changes back. I know when I get them in, I'll like wash a figure, with like soap and water, clean them, stuff like that. But the whitening, I think, is just too far.
Yeah. I would say outside of washing a regular figure with soap and water, I don't do anything else to them. And I was always curious if people that use peroxide and do whiten them, does it come back? Like, would a grader know? I don't know.
I'm laughing because I hear Chris talking, but I don't see him talking.
I'm freezing.
So this is 2 straight weeks of probably not paying the internet bill.
There's frozen again. Every now and then you could see his eyes blink. It's great.
Oh god.
Yeah.
So all right. So
I haven't.
Right now we're talking about
anything.
whitening, right? There's a couple different methods. I don't really know exactly how to do it. I think we've seen people talk about it in some of the groups, like a mason jar, put it out in the sun or something.
Some people do it and they admit to doing it and they say, "Hey, look, I just put this out in the sun with UV, or I put it in peroxide, or I put Solon 40 on it and I changed it. What do you guys think?" Some people don't have a problem with it. Other people do, because you're altering a vintage figure, and we could go down another rabbit hole with that. But we won't talk about that here. But there are certain ways to alter these figures and refurbish them in some sort of way. Now, like Charles was saying, if you are going to sell those figures, you need to probably let somebody know. But I mean, I'm sure everybody's gotten some figures in where you might have gotten a really white figure in, and it would have been done to it, and you would have no idea. I mean, there's ways to tell with like the paint apps on some of these figures that something has been altered on it, especially the white figures that have paint. You can tell some residue of something on there. But if there's no way to really tell, and you inherit one of these figures from somebody else that didn't know that it happened to them either, I mean, that's the risk that you run.
Yeah. So it's fine if it's for your own. Like my son has Stormtroopers and Hoth Stormies and Biker Scouts, and like me and him, threw it in a bowl outside, and we threw some peroxide in there. I mean, it like kind of worked, maybe, I guess, but I didn't use this Solon 40 or whatever you're talking about. I just used regular peroxide, and he plays with them around the house, and I think they're the same as when it started. I think it really didn't switch that much. So maybe I did it wrong, but
I got a figure in one time from somebody I think we all know who works for he works for a toy store. I got a figure in one time and it was still wet.
Really?
Yeah. It was a Biker Scout.
Wet with water and soap? Because that's actually happened to me. Like I shipped a figure and it was still wet from like water and soap though.
This Biker Scout was white.
Okay.
So, it didn't smell like Dawn.
Well, it makes me wonder, though, based on what you guys are saying, I don't know how long it takes for a figure to start yellowing again, or if they definitely do. I mean, I've heard that. I wonder how many times it's happened that somebody's had a really white figure that they bought and then sent it in for grading, and then it gets graded and cased. And then, 6, 12, 18 months later, I wonder if there's some figures out there that started yellowing again with maybe like a nice 85 grade or something, or an 80 plus. I mean, we just don't know, right?
I still know how people can tell the difference.
I would have no idea if they know or not. I'll assume that it probably takes the sheen off the paint, the black paint or the white, whatever paint is on that figure. I'm assuming it probably fades it out a little bit, but
yeah, I think that might be a way to tell. I think the golden rule with all of this is if you sell figures that have been altered with the intent to deceive somebody, kind of like making or a reproduction weapon, or making figures that are meant to be passed off to fool somebody. I think that is the issue that a lot of people have. Now, if you're honest and upfront about something, saying, hey, like Charles will go and sell those figures. Let's say he gets rid of his son's toys 10 years from now because he doesn't play with them, and he has a garage sale, and somebody walks up and, oh, these are really nice white Stormtroopers, like, wow. And he's like, yeah, I mean, we used peroxide on them to clean them up because they were gross and yellow and brown and stuff, and they just look disgusting, so we cleaned them up. I mean, he's not fooling anybody there. He was upfront about it and told the potential buyers. So I don't see an issue with that.
So you're saying that Charles would sell his figures at the garage sale and on road5toys.com.
Do you think he would sell his son's toys and go out and get a whole suitcase full of tacos? Because he's known for that.
Also following...
or did Chris do that? Who did that? I don't remember.
Following your timeline, if I'm at this garage sale 10 years later and they're still white, then the peroxide obviously works.
It works. Yeah. Exactly. All right, guys, let's move on to another topic. Here's one that I thought of. Working on the figure's limbs, trying to tighten loose limbs. I've heard of some different methods out there. I actually heard of one that's really interesting, but I've heard of people wrapping dental floss in the crack of where the limb is, taking the limb of a figure.
It's like, wait, let me show you.
I've got a real beater figure here, but
let me take it out of my teeth. Hang on.
But taking the dental floss and wrapping it in here in the joint, and then it supposedly
what are you
tightens
holding?
it up. This is a super beater Death Star droid that I bought.
Wow, that is the worst one I've ever seen.
A kid, some kid did this, I think. It's stripped.
It's actually pretty cool looking.
It is cool. I have it sitting here on my desk. I look at it every day. It came in. I bought a bunch of beater figures, and
that thing needs dental floss bad.
Yeah, look at this thing.
That's a wet noodle.
But in any case, but wrapping. I mean, that's one way. I've heard there's some other ways, like Elmer's glue and stuff.
I've never heard of the wrapping. I've heard of the glue, and then I've heard of people. They throw the figure into boiling water, and then remove limbs, and then replace limbs. Maybe.
Oh, really?
Popping
or the head, maybe the head.
I bought a couple figures with different heads on them that obviously somebody removed and
okay.
Yeah. But so let's start. That's kind of like a 1A, 1B. Let's start with the tightening of limbs. What do you think about whatever methods are out there and trying to make your wet noodle figures with the loosey goosey limbs tighter? Most of these things apply if they're yours,
right. or for your kid. You can do whatever you want with them. You want to repaint the hair or throw the dental floss in, fine. But I think if you're gonna sell the thing right away, right after you do it, it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I actually just got a Death Star droid in that I listed just the other day, and when I was checking him out and taking pictures, I had noticed that there was glue all in between his limbs, his legs and his arms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I actually put it up, I think, for $15 or $10. I put it at a discounted price because he had glue in his limbs.
And it had nice, tight limbs when you first picked it up.
Yeah, he actually looked really nice, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a lot of money. Oh, nope, there's glue.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so that makes me think of something else to tell younger or newer collectors about. You hear that term that everybody kind of gets all excited about, uncracked limbs. Well, be careful. These figures are 40 years old, give or take. Take a good look at the figure. There's a chance that maybe somebody altered it, and it's not quite as brand new, never been touched as you think. You got to really examine the figures. If it's got glue in the joints, geez. All right, and then so Charles just brought up boiling figures. I've heard of that before. I'm not really sure what the point is, unless you're going to do some sort of customs with swapping limbs or heads or whatever. But what do you guys think about that? Of putting the figures in hot water, or kind of softening up the plastic and doing that business?
I can only see it with maybe like I don't know, one figure that always has a loose head is like a Luke Farmboy brown hair. Maybe you find one that has a nice head and you want to swap the heads. I mean, I don't really think that's a huge deal. I mean, that would be a lot of work, though.
What if it's a Unitoy head and Cable Factory body?
And that's the thing you run into the risk of. Are you sticking the right head on the right body?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because the head was made on a Tuesday and the body was made on a Wednesday.
The left leg is from the Rainbow Factory. The right leg is from the Sprinkle Factory.
Yes. I would never do any of that either. That's something that
seems
way beyond my means.
You know what it is? Like we're like fairly serious collectors, and people, we're in the groups where people know our names. It's like I would never even dare fool around with any of that, just because my luck or our luck, there'll be somebody be like, "That's not a this and that's not a that."
Yeah, you're altering the original construction of the figure. To me, it's a little different than you're putting a saber that you bought separately with a figure, because an accessory is they're not attached to the figure. Yeah. But if you're altering limbs, to me, that's a little much.
I think that needs to be, my opinion is that needs to be reserved for some sort of customization that you want to do with your own figures. You want to put I mean, this is a bad example because it's the last 17, but you want to put a Han Solo head on a Luke Stormy body because you want that figure that they didn't make, and you could figure it out. God bless you, and you want to, take apart the last 17 figure, do whatever you want with your own, figure, but not for resale or not for putting it back out in the community as anything other than a custom, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move over. Well, let's stay with figures for one more minute here. Paint retouches. I mean, these kind of topics we're going to mostly all be completely against, but these are just topics for consideration, for conversation, for newbie collectors out there who don't, know the ins and outs yet, and for even more veteran collectors, just things to look out for. This is just all discussion about the hobby.
With
paint retouching figures.
With paint retouching, obviously, it's something that I don't do. I don't think any of us do. But you can see if someone has done that before by using a blacklight. So a blacklight will show the newer paint next to the older paint, so you can see if something was touched up or not.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I'm assuming you'll just see a difference, because even if new paint, old paint, it's just a different chemical composition of paint.
Take one of your beaters and take a Sharpie and just mark it.
Yeah.
And then take a black light and look at it, and you can tell right away. I noticed it on a Death Squad Commander where somebody had touched up the helmet.
Yes.
And I was like looking at it, and I was like, huh. And I used a black light that I had, and sure enough, it glows.
I just had the same exact thing. I had the same exact figure, and I'm like, this was 100% someone used a Sharpie on it.
So, like, if you're getting in collections, kind of like how we are, and we're always taking pictures and doing sales and listings, having a black light, like where I have my stuff, it's right next to it. So every single time I take a picture, I use the black light on it automatically.
I have one too.
It's just part of the process.
Yep.
That's a really good
black
point.
Lights can also test original sabers too. Original Luke and original Darth Vader sabers. Yeah, they glow.
You can also take it with you to a hotel room and check for other stuff.
Yoda serum.
The way that Brandon takes his flashlight to the hotel rooms for room sales, do not take a black light to the room sales.
But I think
I have to look for paint touch-ups.
Enjoy.
So I think most of us sell our stuff thinking that someone will send us in for grading. So none of us are going to whiten something, repaint it. We're not going to switch limbs, from the boiling water, all this stuff, because God forbid someone sends this thing in for grading and we sold them something with dental floss on his neck or something like that. Yeah. Like, none of us are going to do something that extreme. I would think that most of these things are fine, for your kid, or you want it, for your own collection, to sit like next to your computer. You can do whatever you want, it's yours. Once you sell the thing, you should be upfront, same as everyone, said here, and just let everyone know, hey, here's what I did to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, another thing you could do is if you're a collector and you get to the position where you want to sell some stuff, maybe you don't even want to take that to a group that, you're in where there's serious collectors. You might not want to even take that and say, oh, by the way, this figure's got dental floss in it. I know it's a funny example, but I have heard that in the groups talked about. You might just want to go right to eBay with that and just post it up there. Be honest on eBay and say this figure's been altered with dental floss, but keep it out of like the real collector group setting.
I was actually just going to say the same thing. Just throw it on eBay and just put, show a picture of like 30 figures and just say they're as is.
Yeah, just put Holy Grail, rare.
Yeah, rare, Holy Grail, monthly payments accepted.
Yeah. There's some of these things are such hot topics that even if you do them with your own figures and then decide to get rid of them at some point, go to eBay.
So Shane, this affects you. We're not saying like no one can customize a figure.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to, like redo a beater into something, like nicer, that's all fine because you're switching the color of it. I know like you like make yours like look nice and they're like red and blue and green and all this other stuff. So obviously something happened. You're not, selling this thing as a white Stormtrooper. You're making the Stormtrooper black.
It's obviously
you did something.
Right. Right. And not all of them are this extreme, of course. But like I said, I bought this as, something that a kid did to this figure. I would believe.
I love the limbs on that thing.
It's terrible. But like, this is an extreme example, but I buy figures that are either missing hands or they're just busted. They're brown and they're supposed to be white. And that's where it's like, all right, nobody really is going to take that figure and put it on their shelf. Let's do something with it maybe that somebody would put on their shelf and enjoy. Different
give it new life.
Yeah, give it new life. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to
Mox.
Yeah, mint on cards. Again, I mean, these are just we're going to all be in agreement here, but it's worth discussing. Touching up Mox, touching up the actual card backs.
Well,
what can you talk about there?
Once you touch up Mock, they don't even grade it, so it's not like you can send it to the graders and it gets kicked back with a 60 or a 70 or whatever. It's automatically NG. Not, it's not graded. They won't grade it with any touch up whatsoever. So that's already a no-no.
I've actually had conversations with like legitimate, like longtime sellers at toy shows. And one guy told me something. He was an older gentleman. He told me something that was really interesting. He said, a lot of times when you see mocks where there was a sticker tear, like they took the sticker off and it tore the litho or the front of the card. And if you look, there's a tear there, but it's touched up with like a Sharpie, it's black on black. He said, because he had been around so long, he said, this is not just somebody in 2021 touching up a mock. He goes, at one point, these things were worth nothing. He goes in the early 90s, to mid 90s, these mocks were worth $5. He goes, there were people touching them up just for their own collection to put it on their shelf. They just wanted to not see that tear while it was on their shelf. They weren't trying to deceive anybody, but now those things are back out in the marketplace, 20 years later. So he kind of enlightened me to the fact that people there was a period of time where it was not frowned upon to touch up the cards with a Sharpie because they weren't worth anything. They were worth $5-10 a piece.
Yeah. I'm sure all the way back then, but like everyone knows I hate mocks, but I hate them more when there's any kind of like a black, like somewhere near the mock. I'm always so scared that someone Sharpied it because it's so hard to tell. It really is.
See, I actually feel the opposite. I feel like with a mock, any touch up, it's actually so easy to tell. I feel like it's actually really obvious to tell.
The Sharpie on the mocks is, I mean, if you're glancing at it, you can't really see it. But if you really look at it and you're like, oh, there's a couple. So I had one. I sold it, but at first glance, I couldn't see anything. And then with a certain light, I could see that there was Sharpie mark in one area. And then I kept looking at it, and there was a Sharpie mark in a different area, and then another area. So it had 3 different Sharpie marks on it. And just first looking at it, I couldn't really tell. And I was the same thing. I bought a mock from somebody years ago, and I looked at it recently, and I'm like, crap, there's a couple Sharpie marks on there that I never saw when I bought it because I couldn't see it in the light of the store. Yeah. And now that I'm looking at it, I can see it. So now I know what to look for, but before I didn't.
Does a black light show on a card?
Yes.
For the Sharpie? Okay. So that's good to know.
Use the light on it. Yep.
Just out of curiosity, does black light show like tester paint? Model paint?
I don't know.
Tester paint?
Yeah.
Like the model.
You guys didn't build models?
Oh, I know.
Tester is the name brand of the paint. And they make glue it too. Whoops.
I don't know.
I was wondering if that showed up for the paint too.
John, we didn't use tester paint. We didn't use a hammer and a nail and carve into a piece of stone to write. We had loose leaf paper and pen.
Okay.
We didn't collect Jim and the Wildling boy. What was that toy that he collected? The
Bigfoot and Wild Boy. Bigfoot and Wild Boy.
Yeah.
I don't think
I had no idea what it was.
I don't think people using Sharpie. I mean, people using Sharpie on mocks, if they're doing that in this day and age where it's so obvious, once you actually know what you're looking for, that there's Sharpie marks on there,
it's obvious to us. It's not obvious to newer collectors that don't know. Yeah. So I would say there's definitely people that are out there right now still doing that, and
I think it's easier to cover a tear with a different price tag, because I know a lot of people were doing that.
God, that too. That's another thing.
That's definitely another thing. That's
them removing a vintage price tag from somewhere and then using it to cover up a tear on a mock.
Correct. Yeah, because anything that has a tear, you're automatically looking at like a 70 to a 75 grade. It automatically drags that card grade down. So now when they're covering it up with a sticker and they get away with it, if that card was mint, you can get a much higher grade, which is more money. And I know recently there was a guy that was caught doing that.
Wow.
So
all right, so we talked about touch-ups. What about Charles? This was kind of your comment. Tell us what you're thinking here. Using a heat source, trying to maybe reseal a blister onto a card, or I know there was heat source with some other things too. But talk to us about the blisters.
Yeah, well, there was a not going to obviously say his name, but there's someone in the community who's kind of known for, I guess he was like straightening out the cardboard of the mocks, and he was, I guess, resealing the blisters, and just he supposedly had this whole setup at his house, and he did this, 10 years ago, and he got caught, and then everyone gave him a free pass, and 10 years later, he was just caught again for doing the same exact thing, and he's sorry, and this and that. I mean, is he really sorry? He did this 10 years ago. He was sorry. He's still doing it now, and I don't know how, but he was using a heat source, and he was like sealing the cracks in the blister, right?
Yeah, maybe they're probably removing the dents.
Yeah,
in the blister, reshaping the blister.
I think there's also
that would make more sense.
It's also, if there's a crack, you're not gonna fix it in a way where it's not noticeable, but you can fix the hole. I think with like a heat source, you can kind of maybe melt it back together so that there's actually no hole there, but you'll still see like those white indentions in the blister that there was like a mark there.
This is why I hate mocks. I hate them. I hate mocks even more now because of all this stuff you can do to them. I hate them.
What about those 3 behind you?
Hate them. Yeah. Hate them. I hate them.
Yeah, I know the
I'll
story.
smash them right now if you want me to.
I know the story Charles is
Smash
talking
them
about. I
up.
think we all
Smash
saw it.
them up.
There's apparently you can do heat doctoring to blisters where you can help reform or reshape a damaged blister. Let's just put it like that. I don't know if it comes down to
heard of that.
cracks and stuff like that or just dents or whatever, but there is a way to use a certain heat source and you can reshape and form a blister to obviously to do this to pass on and make more money.
And there's a whole channel on YouTube dedicated to this sort of stuff.
Fixing blisters.
That's also on there. I've seen it on that channel too.
Jeez.
But I mean, again, we don't want it to. If you do something like that, if you alter something, and you send it back out into the community, you should disclose that you've reshaped the blister.
It's a scumbag move.
Well, let me say this. I'm the one who kind of spoke up for us all in the beginning of the episode and said we're all kind of advocates for do what you want with your own collection. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line in the sand a little bit here and say, like, if you want to doctor up your figures because you have them on your shelf and you want to look a certain way, or you want to touch up paint and you don't just want to enjoy looking at them, do what you want, like keep those things out of the community, keep them for yourself. But when it comes to mocks, I get that people do the Sharpie thing, or historically have, but if you're going to start melting the blisters on your own mocks, like, just don't do that. Like, just display it on your shelf. It's going to look fine. It's not going to look any better for your own collection, melting a crack and trying to fix a crack or a hole. Just put it in a nice piece of acrylic and put it on your shelf and just enjoy it for the artwork. Don't melt stuff.
If you're going that far to do something like that, which is like a lot of work, then obviously you're doing it for a purpose or a reason.
Money.
Right.
Money.
Right.
It's greed.
It's one thing when you have a mock on your card or a mark on your card and you go, all right, here's a Sharpie. Let me just make one dot. That takes 10 seconds. Heat doctoring, we're talking about, that's going to take a lot more time. So obviously you're doing it for a certain reason.
And you know what? You're risking ruining the whole thing. If you're going to cover up a little dot on a card with a Sharpie, you're not going to like make it worse. But if you're going to start melting the plastic on a mint on card, you're a chance to ruin the whole collectible.
So the only thing that I can think of with a mock that I'm fine with is if it's like wavy and you stick it into a snap case and you let it sit for like, whatever, like a week in a snap case and it straightens it out a little bit. I don't think, that's like, like switching the integrity of anything or anything like that. But,
when
you're using like
or whatever and flattening it out. Yeah.
When you're using like a heat source and you have this whole setup, like this guy supposedly did, and he was, resecuring the blisters. I mean, it's like, what are you, like a scientist?
Apparently there was it says veins in the card, like ripples, especially if you take off a price sticker, sometimes it would leave like little ripples on the card. You could tell if something was pulling at it. You can use a heat source and kind of like moisture, kind of like water, and you can reshape it back.
I'd be so nervous about ruining it so much further.
It's just stupid.
But that's the thing, is that a lot of the listings, if you followed over the years, and everything's documented, everything was saved on the computer, you can see the same mock bought and then the same mock sold with work being done to each. So sometimes it actually worked and you made money, and then sometimes it didn't work and then you lost money.
I've done the whole heavy book thing. I had a mock where the half of the card that had the blister on it was actually pretty straight, but like the litho side with the photo was like curled a bit. It was starting to curl a bit, or wave, whatever you call it. And then put 3 or 4 heavy books on it and just leave it alone for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it's one that's in my collection now. It works. I mean, the card didn't have any veins in it, so I was just flattening out the card. That's a great trick. That's a great non-invasive trick that I would share with any collector. You have a card with a little wave in it, a little curl, just a natural curl. We're not talking about like a bend or a fold or a crease, but that works great. That's a great trick.
Yeah,
That's sort of like what, comic book collectors, when they send their books in for, a pressing or a cleaning, whatever. That's kind of something that they do. I don't really know exactly how they do it, but like that's a legitimate way before you send your comic book in for grading. People get impressed.
Okay.
only one guy does that, and his first name and last name have 4 letters. John Rula. So the next thing with a mock that I can think of is removing the price sticker, like using what is it, lighter fluid.
So I've heard about that. Is the lighter fluid to actually remove the sticker, or is it to get the sticker residue off? I don't even know.
I think it's
Both.
residue. Is it both?
Yeah, probably both.
Both. You
Okay,
use
so
it,
if
and
you-
you can remove a sticker with it, or if there's like really nasty eyesore, like gunk all over it from a price tag, it'll take that off as well.
And it's not supposed to damage the paper, the card.
Not supposed to. You got to use the right lighter fluid. You can't just go buy lighter fluid like you're gonna have a barbecue. It's the lighter fluid that comes in like a little aerosol can for like the butane, your lighter or whatever.
So which one do you use, Brandon? Tell us.
I use the one that you need to do for a barbecue.
He's rubbing charcoal briquettes on the card.
Mineral spirits.
Kingsford.
Like I said, these are all things that people do with this stuff just to make money. That's that's all it is. They push all this stuff to see how far they can get away with something.
Yeah, and you have to keep in mind that even though you might want to do it, whatever you want to do with your own stuff, your stuff is probably going to make it out into the world at some point again.
Yeah.
If something happens to you, your kids don't want this stuff. Like your wife doesn't want this stuff. I mean, I'm kidding. Your kids may very well want to keep your stuff, but at some point, it's going to make it out in the world again. It's not going to be with you in your coffin. So, think about this stuff.
I have very strict regulations in my will.
John's going to be literally covered with B-wing pilots.
I want the pews.
They're just going to sprinkle them all over him.
I want the pews with it. I don't want any incompletes. Everyone needs a pew.
Put the pews in my mouth.
All right. So, lighter
More
fluid is on
changing the
list
meter
here.
over there.
We just talked about the lighter fluid.
You can also do.
So what's the thought on that? What's the yay or nay? Removing sticker residue.
Oh, nay.
Nay. Charles? No.
I wouldn't even see a reason why you would even do it. I don't see the reason why you would.
John? I know people say it works, but I would just be afraid to ruin
I use it on custom chicken walkers to get stickers off there.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing that, just to get the stickers off the front, the front and the ones on the side. Half the time, the ones that I use, they're all beaters. They're all torn anyway.
I was going to say, you're talking about like torn stickers with like residue on there.
Yeah, and it's the residue that you just want to get off of the vehicle, and that stuff.
Yeah.
I use that with like a razor blade, and it takes it right off.
Yeah.
So that moves us into the next thing is vehicles and the decals and the labels and removing them or using newer ones,
New parts.
Yeah,
and that's
not
a
new
big
parts,
deal
like-
for a lot of people, rebuilding, restoring the vehicles.
Like
I'll-
so,
a lot of
look at
people do it. A lot of people do it.
I look at that like giving a figure a blaster that it's missing.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna do a what's a common one that people like
What if you have a cracked windshield
Cloud
on
car.
a land speeder?
a cloud car and it's missing the canopies, and you buy 2 canopies for it, right? And you put those on your cloud car. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the same
that's
thing as that.
Yeah, that's fine. When someone lists something as I just got it from the restoration lab,
Yeah, the restoration lab.
I won't even read the rest of it because it just sounds like they're restoring it. I don't want to know like what you did with it. Like what'd you do with it? They whitened it? Or they removed all the stickers and they put them all back? Like, how do you put them back on?
No, I think what you're talking about is that guy gets the motors working again inside the little gears and gets it to make the light and sound again.
Either way, when you say back from the restoration, and it's like, all right, I stop reading too. I don't read it either.
Yeah, because it could go so many different ways, but I know what Brandon's talking about because I've taken apart my Imperial shuttle because the wings weren't working. And it had a stripped gear inside. So I got another gear, a vintage gear from somebody that was selling parts and was able to restore mine so that the wings worked.
You got a different gear? You got a cater gear?
You're not belonging there.
You got a cater gear?
No, it was a sprinkle factory gear. But it's not whitening, not
yeah, that's fine.
But and actually, the motor in mine wasn't working either, and I did the whole trick with the 9-volt battery and everything. So I mean, that was my version of restoration: was getting mine to work. Number one, number two, getting the wings to work. The physical gear was stripped inside, and it was also really interesting opening it up and seeing what the mechanisms inside were. Taking pictures so I could put it back together and doing that by hand, but. You're right. It could go in any direction. Does it mean whitening? Does it mean, repro stickers? Does it mean? I mean, probably not, but you never know. So what's each of our take on restoring vehicles with original parts?
So let's say you have original stickers and your sticker fell off the shuttle. One of the pick a sticker. How'd you glue it back on?
It's a good question.
You used a 2022 glue.
So
John got really close.
So if that's not allowed, then the Falcon that I got, 10 years ago, where everything's flaking off of it, I fly it around the room and stickers are flying off of it faster than anything else. Now, what do I do?
Can we get a video of that?
Now, I don't have vintage spit, so I don't know if that would work. But how do I, do I get another sticker sheet that's vintage and then I ruin the sticker sheet by taking 40-year-old stickers that probably don't even stick on the sticker sheet?
They probably don't even stick, is what I was going to say.
No, so I mean, what's that? Are you altering a vehicle with?
I've seen people post about this. I remember somebody recommending like a certain type of glue stick, like
they used a purple
non-archival or something. I don't know. There was something.
No acid.
Okay.
A lot of people use the purple one, I think.
Yeah, it's like the water-based one that doesn't hurt kids when they eat it. But yeah,
Brandon puts it on his toast in the morning.
But
see, but that
where do you got to draw the line?
I think that's wrong, though. That goes into the mock land of. I'm so scared of mocks and I hate them. I hate vehicles too for the same reason that you don't know what these people did with it. Like rebuilt the motor and re-put on the stickers, with some kind of glue or whatever, or they whitened, the ship. Like, how do you know?
I just want to take a second and remind everybody that's watching this. Comment on this video. Tell us what you think about each of these topics. Comment along with us. And we want to hear some feedback on what you think. But where do we all draw the line?
I mean, I'm just going to sell vehicles, and then I'm just going to put the stickers in a baggie and say good luck
on the side. Yeah,
yeah. Good luck.
I'm not sticking them back on. Again, we sell a lot, and God forbid, like that happens, and I re-stick a sticker on, and then they find out. They're like, "Oh, look at this! It just fell off, and this glue is still sticky." And I could tell that it's not worth it. For what? Yeah. Maybe a $5 difference? I don't know. Like, there's no point.
Yeah. I just sell the vehicles as is. If the sticker is falling off, it's falling off. That's how it is in the pictures too.
You're talking about selling though, but I mean, what about your own private, personal collection stuff?
Everything's in plastic, acrylic.
Yeah,
I think a vehicle
fall off.
I think a vehicle falls into the same thing as a mock does. Just once you modify that, it's going to move from your collection and it's going to go somewhere else. And who the hell knows, what's going to happen with it?
Exactly, and that's the bad part about buying loose stuff. You never know. I mean, you know how many dead people's figures I have? Who knows what they did with it?
What?
Chris has a bunch of encased ghosts back there.
Charles, do you know how many dead people's figures he has?
Yeah, I was going to say.
All I can tell you is last episode, his name was Brandon Dahmer. I think it fits.
Yeah. I don't know.
Brandon's like, I think for vehicles and mocks, you don't do anything to them. Whatever they are, they are. With a figure, if you're going to give your son a Stormtrooper and he's like, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old or whatever age he is, and he's like, Dad, it's yellow. I don't want it. Throw it in some peroxide. Let the kid slap it around for a couple of years. I'm assuming it switches back to yellow within 6 months or whatever, and you're right back where you started from.
I have a good example for you guys. I did that one custom ATST that I sold at the convention that we went to. What I did with that one is it had one really bowed leg to where it wouldn't even stand up nicely. It had like one straight leg and one that was really curled in, and it wouldn't stand up nicely. And there was, I think this points to what John was telling us earlier. I found a YouTube video on how to take apart an ATST because there's, you want to do it without breaking anything. And I was able to remove the whole leg, and I was able to straighten the leg out. And I can't remember if I used like a hair dryer or like
Hot water.
warm water.
Yeah.
I think I just put it under like whatever the temperature water coming out of the faucet was. It wasn't like boiling water or anything, but I was able to do that for like 5 minutes, kind of just gently straighten the leg out. And it stood great after that. And it stood like it all the way to the show. It was standing and like, it stayed that way. What do you think of something like that? Just kind of helping in a warped leg stand up.
I think if you're doing that on a custom piece, it's perfectly fine. But if you're doing it on like a regular vintage piece that you're not using to be a custom, then I said
before, we're selling stuff to someone who may be grading this thing.
Yeah.
So it's going to go and it's going to sit there for 9 months until they finally grade the thing. So what's going to happen in 9 months? Is the leg, going to rebow? Is the Stormtrooper going to, turn yellow again? Is the sticker, going to fall off the X-Wing? Who knows?
I get a collection in and I sell it as is. And
I know, but I mean, what about the gun that you put on the top there? That didn't come originally with it. Now you're putting an additional weapon on there that wasn't on there before, from a different factory, most likely. Is that okay?
What do you mean? Like a loose figure?
No. Like the chick, the pew that's on top of the ATST, that small.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Top Gun.
Top Gun. It's missing, so you buy one and you put it on there. But that wasn't the original one that was on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's still it's the same thing though.
Yeah, but it's not the original. It's not the original toy. You're altering.
Well, here's a good example. We know for a fact that the Y-Wing came from 2 different factories. There's 2 different molds for the Y-Wing ship, and it has different, like, I don't know if it's a COO or whatnot, but there's like a different stamp on the bottom in the molds so that you could tell the difference. What if you get the Top Gun for that from wherever somebody's selling, parts, and you put it on and it's not the right
moral?
one?
The moral of the story is that you don't know what you're getting because who knows where the hell it came from and what additional pieces they've added or taken away throughout the years. Because let's say Charles has a Y-Wing sale and has all these pieces. I buy 3 struts because all mine are broken. I put them on. 2 weeks later, I'm like, I don't feel like having this Y-Wing anymore. I'm going to give it to somebody else. And then they like it and they play with it for a year and then they put it up for sale. And now it's got 3 Sprinkle Factory struts on there. You know, I mean, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know what pieces and parts from whichever other vehicle you have. I mean, everything. I think we have a bunch of Franken vehicles and figures. I know somebody that is pretty well known on one of our Facebook groups that admitted to swapping R2D2 domes on figures for the clickers because the clickers weren't working, or swapping their domes for nicer domes to put on better figure. I mean, is that allowed? You're altering a figure. Like,
where do you draw a line? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's everybody has a line, and obviously the guy who was melting the blisters and straightening, the card backs, his line was pretty high. He had a very high line, and he wouldn't go over whatever certain thing that he did, but most people have a line that's very, very low, and you shouldn't cross that line.
So I just go with the whole thing of, if your intent is to fool people behind it, then that is probably where the line has to be drawn. So people that come out with fake figures and all that. So,
Oh God.
Chris and John are having secret messages sent back and forth because the other three of us are actually on a podcast and we're running a show. The other two are just shooting the crap. Just, hey, what are you doing tomorrow?
Care.
Like, really?
They're like,
oh,
I'm fixing clickers. I'm fixing clickers on my R5s. What are you doing?
I was
Do you have any sprinkle struts? I
John-
have only rainbow
I'm
struts.
gluing stickers on tomorrow. What are you
John.
doing, John?
John was asking
D-wing,
for my
D-wing.
Yeah, did you guys notice how quickly Chris was able to grab that Sharpie? He had it right there ready to go.
It's ready to go. It's
Really interesting.
ready to mock up at every mock.
All right, guys. Anything else here on this topic? I think we covered it pretty good. We hit all the topics that I wanted to hit that you guys brought up.
No, it's very, very controversial.
It is.
Everyone's opinion will be all over the place for this one.
Yeah,
I mean, the one thing that I will say, and I don't feel hard and fast, like steadfast about this, but that idea of trying to get something to stand up properly, or if you had a strut for a Y-wing that was like bent and you could just put it under some warm water and straighten it out and put it on the ship, I don't have a problem with that. Now, the example I did was for a custom. I haven't really tinkered with
there's people
chicken
that
walkers otherwise, but
there's people that have gone on public Facebook groups and stated in a live auction that they take their weapons and put them under hot water, and take legs of figures and walkers and put them under hot water to get them straight again. I'm
going to say modifying mocks and modifying, vehicles. I'm not talking about like straightening out a leg. I'm talking about like you're actually modifying the vehicle. You should be sent to a separate island, and you and all the other people will live there. And there'll be a whole bunch of very bad people there, and they'll be.
That's why you just buy a mint and sealed box, and don't buy mocks from questionable people. Just buy everything sealed.
But then do you open it and then put it together?
If you want, they're your toys.
Has John used his real voice in the last 2 weeks?
No.
Brandon started this whole thing where he puts his lips on the microphone, and John has just totally bought in.
John, you got new glasses?
I did. I got new glasses. Yeah. I lost my glasses at the Slipknot show.
Oh God.
Oh, that's right. Were you blind for the rest of the day, or what?
Yeah, I had to go to Walgreens the next morning to get glasses.
They just sell your glasses at Walgreens,
They're reading
on the shelf?
glasses. They're reading glasses.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you were trying to read at the Slipknot show?
Well, I can't see anything with them, like in front of my face, like reading ingredients or reading my phone or something like that. I can't.
Guys,
read it
what do
without
you
my
read
reading
when you're in the mosh pit at your concerts?
Okay.
I don't know what you're reading.
We reread how to wrap the episode.
Well, I rest my glasses. I won't be able to see you guys, but I rest my glasses on my hat, like that.
That was John in teacher mode. I remember that.
And then so I wasn't in the mosh pit. I was mosh pit adjacent. and I lost my glasses. No.
All right. Well, all is well in the world
Interesting.
of Lord Walden now. He's got new glasses.
Yeah.
Chris loves Lord Walden.
Love Lord Walden.
All right,
This is a
folks,
treat.
thanks very much for joining us on another Sunday night podcast episode. We talked about restoration or rest in peace tonight. So let us know in the comments what you think about some of the areas of restoration, or kind of just playing around with the vintage collectibles and trying to give them some new life somehow, or play with the look of them. Tell us what you think. So come back and join us next Wednesday. We're going to have another Wednesday's Wins and Whiffs of the Week. And of course, every Sunday night is our podcast episode. You can listen on your favorite podcast app or watch our stupid faces on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we will see you next time on 5 Idiots Talking Toys. Good night, fellas.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.